Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com. In the next few tutorials, we're going to be looking at template classes and functions. And I just want to point out something really important before we begin, which is that we're going to be looking at syntax that looks like this. So I'm going to explain this kind of syntax, and that enables you to do stuff like this, which kind of resembles what you see with the standard template classes, where you specify types to classes. Now, one important thing about template classes is that it's not so easy to separate the implementation from the actual class. So what we'd usually do with a class most of the time would be we'd put a kind of definition of how it works, the kind of declaration of it, the prototypes of its methods in a header, and then we'd put the actual implementation, the actual code, in a .cpp file. Then when the compiler compiles your program, it only has to look at the header to see that you've used the class correctly. And it can separately compile the .cpp file into a .o file. So the compiler initially creates a bunch of .o files, and then at the end it links them all together, finally linking the implementation with the bits of code that use it. So it links all the object files together. And the .cpp files produced separate object files. That's not the case with template classes, because with templates, C++ has to see both the implementation and the definition all together before it can compile your code. Because behind the scenes, C++ is actually going to create the particular classes involving particular types like this that you actually need. So if you have a vector of strings, it's actually vector is a template class. It can work with any type, but C++ is actually going to create a particular vector that works with strings behind the scenes. And to do that, it needs to see the implementation and the definition all in one place. So the upshot of this is that it's better probably to define your template classes all in header files. So I'm going to just define them all in one file here for the convenience of this tutorial. Normally you would put your template classes in a header file. You wouldn't use a CPP file. You declare all the implementation in line like this. There are various ways that you can separate the implementation of a template class from its definition, but they're all a bit hacky, I would say. For example, you can put the implementation in a file that's called something other than .cpp, so it doesn't get compiled directly, like .tpp or something, and you can include the implementation in the header instead of including the header in the implementation. Or you can also declare particular instances of your template class that work with particular types. These solutions are all a bit hacky, and they all lead to various side effects which are not really nice to have to work with. So it's better, I would say, generally, except perhaps in rare cases, just to put your template class purely in a header file and put the implementation in there as well. So I just wanted to mention that before we start looking at templates, just so you don't get caught out by trying to separate the implementation and the definition of a template. Just put it all in your header file. Don't use a .cpp. Okay, so we'll start looking at this in the next tutorial. Until next time, happy coding.